Hello, I'm Mark Hunter with McPherson.Tech. Not wrapping cables properly can make things a mess and even damage the cables. So I'm going to show you some proper techniques on wrapping the cables and also securing them. This works not only for cables, but power cords, even garden hoses. So let's get started. So today we're going to try and get rid of this mess of cables. So most of the time when people go through and wrap cables, they go through and they have the cable and they just wrap it around their arm like this. That was done with this actual power cable for many years. Now this cable, as it was being wrapped, it was always wrapped up that same way, and when you unwrap it, it's a tangled mess. In fact, if we take a close-up look at it, after a while, it got so twisted on the inside because it was always twisted that same way that the cables on the inside of the cable started going through and getting twisted more. And eventually, they actually shorted out. We're going to go through and try and show you how to avoid this from ever happening again. So this cable here, you can see I actually wrapped it up very, very small. But when I pull it out straight, all of the twists come undone. It's actually a very straight cable. And the way I do this is, instead of going through and just wrapping it over and over and over, because then if I pull that out, you get those definite bends, we always wrap it going over and then a loop under. Now, this is actually takes quite a bit of practice, but once you get good at it, you can actually go through and do it pretty quickly. Again, we go over, under. Now I'm going to show you with another cable here that will be a little bit easier to see, but we always try and go through and have it so we don't have any of those twists. So this heavier cable, you may be able to see it a little bit better. If I go over and then I just loop it, but is actually under. Over, under. Now this can also be done with large cables. In fact, here's an example of me doing it with a very thick, heavy cable. So here we're actually laying the first loop over and then tucking the next one in underneath. Big heavy cables actually lay down on the ground and do them. And big heavy cables we wouldn't do quite this tight, but you can see that we can go through and loop this on. Nice thing about this is when I pull this out straight, it will go through and not have any loops in the cable at all. You notice on this cable, this small cable here, I have it very, very tight, but if I pull it out straight, it is perfectly flat. That's why this works out so well even for your garden hoses. You can do this with a garden hose. Just do the over, under, and when you pull it out straight, it'll lay flat on your yard, or flat on your cables will lay flat on a stage deck as well. One problem that people run into when they do the cables this way is sometimes when they pull that out, they'll actually have the end on one side and accidentally pull it through on the other. And if you do that, you end up with a bunch of knots that you have to undo. So to avoid this, I leave a little bit of an end on either side before securing the cable. To secure the cable, you can use tape, gaff tape or any other tape, but I don't recommend putting this tape straight onto the cable, because eventually, especially if the cable is stored a long time, that will leave a gooey mess on the cable. Instead, I take a piece of tape, I wrap it over, overlap it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're avoiding most of the stickiness that way. And then I wrap that around the cable to avoid getting the sticky part on the cable. Another way to use the tape, if you have the wider tape, is to pull down one end just a little bit, fold it down, wrap that over, and then use that to go around the cable. But instead of using this tape, I recommend using something like these Velcro straps. Now, I'm going to take this tape off, and the straps are generally put on the end that is towards either the console and away from the mic. So I put these on, One is plenty, two is always better. We wrap up both sides. So here we have nicely wrapped cable that will go through, pull out flat on the stage without any of the curly cues in there, and it will actually last much longer because we're not twisting the wires on the inside. One more trick you can do is you'll notice on this one I have just happen to have enough extra on the ends that I can actually plug these together. So if you're going to be putting these in a traveling trunk, that might keep some of the male pins from getting damaged by other cables. I know this takes some practice, but I know this makes cables last, and even garden hoses last much longer. Thank you, and be sure to subscribe. Good day.